Welcome to the FinLink FinCast, where we talk about all things M&A and CPA and wealth management. We get all the experts here. I'm your host, Xander Heinen, president of FinLink, and today I have a guest, and I've been dying to have this podcast, Mike Williams from Truvestments. Thanks so much for being here today, Mike.
Fabulous to be here, Xander.
Awesome. Well, Mike and I have been chatting for a good while now. And I have to say, the reason I'm so excited about this podcast is you figured out the secret sauce for something that I've seen as a problem or a solution, rather, that needs to be addressed in the industry. And that's really the model of the mini family office, the successful merging of CPAs and wealth advisors. And that's done via your partnering model, which really I think is amazing for the industry to have this accessible now. So definitely wanted to have our members understand, how you do that, the genius that goes behind that. But would love to just get a little background on you and a little bio of yourself. I know you've been in the industry for a good while now.
Yes, sir. I really appreciate being able to talk to you about this and share as much as we can to help as many as we can. Xander, I think you've done just a fabulous job of getting the FinLink platform mastered the way you have, and have brought such a great service to both, the CPA side of the world and the financial advisor side of the world. Excited to see that. I think we've been members since maybe the first year or two, but in any event, you're right. I started a long time ago. I started in 1982 when the Dow was 901 on my first Friday. There were exactly two broker dealers when I started. One of them is the one that became LPL, which they've done a pretty good job. The other one is FSC Financial Services out of Atlanta, Georgia. So I think the benefit that, first of all, I feel very blessed to be able to chat with you today, but also to have experienced Dow 901 to Dow 45,000. And by the way, I think we really haven't even scratched the surface yet. But what it allowed me to do, and like I say, it has been a blessing. What it allowed me to do is basically watch the entire industry kind of grow up,
Yeah.
with all the blemishes and all the mistakes and all the terrible things that happened. I think one of the things, in fact, I was just on a call with a client and they said, "Well, why aren't you nervous?" And I said, "Well, when you watch America go from 901 on the Dow to 45,000 on the Dow, here's what you learn. You learn we're made up of great people. We are a wonderful team when we work together. We are fabulous at overcoming problems. We are amazing at being able to get over hurdles. So there is no such thing as an Armageddon, and there is no apocalypse. And the only way you know that is you've done it for 43 years
Yep.
and you've watched all of those elements happen. And what it does is it deadens your pain and your emotional reaction that plagues so many investors, so many advisors, so many CPAs. We're all the same. At the end of the day, we're all wired up the same. And our emotions are dangerous at key times. And some of the things we've built as tools for both CPAs and advisors, some of the things you noted, are designed just for that thought process, is to control the mistake. In other words, if we, and by the way, it doesn't matter how many commas people have in their net worth, they all do the same things. They're just bigger numbers. They make the same mistakes. They have the same fears. They have the same exact concerns. The nightmares are identical. They're just bigger. That's it. So the beauty of all of this is that after being blessed and honored to be able to do this for so long, first of all, I've never thought I had a job. I got lucky. I love what we do, and I love seeing people succeed. And I love it that we've created a set of tools that it does not matter whether you're a CPA or you're an advisor. They just vertically drop into your business and they're branded. They look like you.
Yeah.
Xander, I think we joked about it. It's kind of like the little sticker on your laptop that says Intel chip inside. You know, we're the chip, and we just drop inside someone's business, and we've been doing the business for so long that we've got it automated, we've got workflows, we've got video stories. We build a story around you. And in other
Right.
words, what we've learned over the years is a CPA, first of all, is very protective of their customer, as they
Oh,
should be.
certainly. Yep.
They have been inundated with the, hey, let's just share clients model. That does not work. Um, the client knows it and the CPA knows it. And they know it from the start usually. And that's why it never kind of unfolds the right way. See, the
Yeah,
right way.
I
Yeah.
think I used the anecdote there. I was at a CPA and wealth advisory conference, and there's the wealth advisors at the bar talking about their golf game, and then there's the CPAs on the other side of the room, calculating their handicap. So it's
Exactly. Right.
a
Right.
totally different
Yeah.
uh, just mentality.
Very different mindset. And there's a little bit that the CPAs need to accept. What we try to sit and talk about is, I call it forced convergence. Um, After kind of working parallel in our lives for 50 years, the client that you want, the client that you want to keep, like we talk to CPAs and we say, what really concerns you? And they say, well, if I lost one of my top 20 clients, I'd be I'd be concerned.
Right.
Well, trust me, those very type of clients are the ones who will, just a matter of time, will eventually say to you, I need you to be doing everything under one roof. I I'm tired of calling seven people to find out the right answer.
Yep.
I don't want to call the estate guy and the lawyer guy and the will and trust guy and the insurance guy and my tax guy and my broker guy. I don't want to call all those. And by the way, when I say guy, I don't mean to leave out that it's often women as well. So guys or ladies, I don't want to have to do all that. And what we do is we deliver them a solution on that forced convergence. We make it about them expanding their team,
Yep. And I
expanding
think
their
that
capacity.
really that really hits a personal spot for me. My father passed a couple years ago, and I was the guy who had to figure out all those guys. So it does, hit very near to my heart. And one of the things I discussed with you a couple days ago, and I actually had this conversation today about you, younger advisor, totally understood,
Yeah,
totally understood this
yep,
concept.
yep.
Older guys, it's a much
The
tougher.
struggle. Yeah,
So I could see it as a forced convergence, if you will. But
yeah.
I think the idea is totally there. Would love to get into kind of, how you implement what, how you do this, how it's magic in my opinion. So, would love to kind of
Absolutely.
get in the nitty gritty.
Yeah, I think, and you want to think of this in layers. Okay, you layer this in. Think of the way you build a house. You know,
Yep.
you go in and you dig up all the dirt first, and you lay out the structure of what's going to support the house, and then you start pouring concrete, and then you start slowly building up the house. Well, in this case, the concrete is this is a CPA who has often had years in the business, has great respect amongst his or her clients, and we need to be very sensitive to not rocking that boat.
Right.
So one of the things we have found, one of the first things we do is long ago, and by the way, anybody who listens to this podcast is welcome to write wherever you tell them to write, and I'll send them samples of all this. So what I'm describing, you'll be able to easily see and envision. Um, but here's one of the first things we do. Once there's an understanding and a desire to implement what we term as their mini family office
Right.
service. Once that's something they want to accomplish, the first thing we do is long ago we brought in a partner who is a five-time Emmy-winning producer who has the capacity to build a video story that's the quality of a movie in a movie theater, but the complexity of being able to take a very high level story and bring it down to the person's desktop in a way where it's understandable, it's likable, and it's something they can raise their hand and say, you know what, that's what I'm looking for. Um, Sam is his name, and we bring the crew in to wherever that person's office is. We'll fly to them, we'll come in, and we'll tell their story because it is their story.
Right.
Now, the advisor is part of it. We're certainly part of their story, but they're the main thing. You know, they're the top of the pyramid, if you will. And it's their audience, and the sensitivity is we want to educate their audience that all they've really done is adapted to the demand of this blossoming client need. In other words, they have agreed that their client needs this new depth. They need this new capacity. And what they've done, they being the CPA, is they've gone into the marketplace and they've said, we're going to take active roles in making sure our client has all of these answers under our roof. Now, we're not going to run out and take that video. By the way, the video is wonderful. It tells two types of stories for them. One, there's a 4 or 5 minute story to their current client. Two is their future client, their prospect.
Right.
So there's another story that we build so that when somebody rolls into their office and says, by the way, what do you guys do? Well, we deliver a tool that no other CPA in their marketplace is going to have. So they're going to stand out as a thought leader immediately. That
Bingo.
that prospect is going to see a video and they're going to go, "My gosh, I've never seen anything like this from a CPA."
Yeah, and we have those videos, so we'll add that to the link. I went through them; they are great, great production quality, better than my little podcast studio here, might I add. But I love this idea. Having worked, in the M&A space, obviously, it is an overcoming task to talk to the CPA and have an M&A process in place. And the last thing they want is more work.
Right.
Right. So I would, how do you manage that psychological Mount Everest when you,
Fabulous question. Fabulous question. Uh, we let the CPA know that their job and our job are both 80-hour jobs.
yep,
So clearly, to do a good job for their client, by the way, for their client, and we always make sure that's always clear, um, we must be respectful of that need. If they wanted to have a second job, they'd have done that already. What we show them is a series of tools, again, that are vertically integrated. They already exist from workflows to plans to portfolios to analysis, and all of our team is their team. So we vertically integrate our hours and our staff into their team. So it becomes as, and by the way, it's really regulated by what they want. They may want to be aware of a meeting. They may want to be in a certain area of the discussion. They usually don't, but they may want to.
right,
So part of our what we call 90-day ramp up is we discuss each layer of what's going to be done for their client and which of those layers, A, do they want to be part of, and B, do they want to be aware of? And if they want to be aware of it, what's the route of communication? Do they want their assistant to know about it? Do they want the guy in tax department 101 to know about it? Do they want their auditor to know about whatever they want to know? We connect all those dots to the workflows on the front end so
Right.
that they're automated, right? We're all hearing about automation these days.
Of course.
I think we were a little early, um, but AI makes it very simple to connect the dots once so that on the front end, before anybody knows about it, all the infrastructure works properly.
Right.
They know in advance that the only thing, if they so desire, if they want to be the front end of a discussion, it can be as simple as this. They might be sitting with one of those 20 clients and they might say, hey, you are aware that we have a wealth management division now. And that client might ask them a question. Literally, all they're going to do is they're going to pull up a little URL that we've built for them. They're going to enter the client's name and phone number, and there's a little box where they can say, Mike, Bob needs to know this.
That's very
Okay,
important.
whatever that is, he's going to type it, and as soon as he hits send, there's about a half a dozen of us that knows that Bob needs a question answered.
Right. Yeah.
And
That's
he's
huge.
going to have told us, hey, Bob prefers you just write him an email, or Bob wants you to give him a call, and here's his phone number. And Bob is going to tell him when's a good time to get a call. It
Yep.
might be, hey, look, don't bother me in the mornings, or hey, I'm better after 3 o'clock. Whatever it is, that's all he's going to have to do, and the rest is done for him or her.
Right.
So, so it's an automated process that can become as detailed as they want or as hands off as they want. But the key is this: they have tools in place where it's all being done for them, and their client is being served. And let me tell you one other thing that they don't like. They're terrified. They're terrified of this. They're terrified that somebody like me is going to get a list of their clients, and their clients are going to get 14 phone calls
Yep.
from some call desk about, hey, let's come in and have a financial plan done. Nope, never going to happen. Here's what is going to happen: all the tools we build in their brand, the video story about them, the morning note that we send out, the webinars that we structure for just their clients are really all about education.
Yep. Yep.
Uh, in other words, we're building a knowledge base so that all of their clients slowly, it's like a tide rolling in. Eventually all of their clients are going to be in the water, so to speak, and they're going to be aware that Jack is now able to do all of these things for me. All I got to do is raise my hand. I just
Yeah.
got to say, Jack, I'm glad you're doing these things. I need you to do this for me. Well, once that is triggered, the workflows begin. So the audience is not outbound discussion, it's outbound education, and we let them say when they want to raise their hand.
Yeah. And education is a huge, huge subject matter you alluded to. And I just wanted to throw in a little uh upcoming teaser here that you and I will be working a lot on the FinLink education platform that we're coming
Absolutely.
out with on how that mini family office model can be implemented. I can't wait to do work with you on that.
And by the
You,
way, I think that thing you're building, which you have shared, fabulous benefit to your audience. I mean,
yeah, I can't wait.
it's really gonna. I mean, it's gonna send FinLink even further ahead as the thought leader. So it's really gonna be great.
Well, just from our conversations on what we're seeing with the mini family office model, and then I have conversations about how many advisors don't have succession plans in
Right.
place. I have a lot of questions that I'm fielding from our subscribers about lending and what that process looks like.
Yep.
And then I think it was DeVoe that just came out with a study that said, for younger advisors coming into the industry, there's an incredibly high turnover rate. It's like 74% in the first year. So,
Yeah.
that I think can be addressed with education on FinLink. So I'm really excited to have you as as a partner with us to build that out. That will be very interesting. You mentioned the morning notes.
Yes.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about those.
Sure, sure.
You
What we
kind of
do,
touched
yeah,
on it.
we call it a morning note. I don't want to imply that it happens every morning.
It's a
It
lot of work.
does when we're in if you've done something for 43 years, you kind of get a feel for the audience, and the audience needs more communication in periods like right now, for example, when
Right.
markets are struggling. Let me back up 1 second,
Sure.
because the morning note was birthed, God, 30 years ago. I think I was one of the first people to use email. I don't know, but it was close. The morning note was designed, and it's written, by the way, I write it. So I write it based on 43 years of knowing that no matter how many zeros are in someone's net worth, when they are concerned about what's going on, they would like to be able to sit around their coffee table and talk about it. So what I do is I write it like we're sitting down at their coffee table and we're talking about what's going on.
Smart.
And and it's it's done in a way, and remember, it's in your brand. In other words, it's not in my brand. It's your name showing up in your client's email box. And what they take from that is Jack really is watching out for me. And it's a calming effect. It is it so usually we only send it out a couple times a week. And what we'll do is we'll try to address the one thing. Now, we're not directly addressing this, but we're creating this process where the one thing that is critical to everybody meeting their financial goals. And by the way, this is no matter how good their advisor is. We can be the best advisors in the world. But if the client does this one thing, it won't matter. And that one thing is they get off their path.
Yep.
In other words, and by the way, we know from 43 years exactly when the risk is high that they're going to get off their path. And it's when it's darkest,
Yeah.
when it's the hardest to see the path. So, what we do is we call them breadcrumbs, in that we try to keep the light on the path so that no matter how dark it gets around them, they still see their path. They still see, I will get to my goal if I just keep walking down my path.
Yep.
If I jump off in the weeds because I'm scared that it got a little dark, I'm not on my path anymore. And I have
Yeah.
interrupted the effect of what, who told us, was it Einstein that said the compound interest is the seventh wonder of the world? The point is if you stop the flywheel because you leave because it's scary, it's all got to start over again.
Yeah, yeah, no, and that totally reminds me of, the fear that, I came into the market. I think I told you this. I worked at First Eagle Funds under
Yes,
Jean-Marie Eviard, who is just a classic value investor and could come up with Warren Buffett quotes like you wouldn't believe. But he
yes,
always, talked about conviction. And he'd always say it's warm in the herd till the herd falls off a cliff. Don't change your ways because of fear.
that's right.
Um, yeah, so I think you're spot on with that.
Well, it's funny because you mentioned the gentleman you mentioned is close friends with the founder of the company that bought my first company many, many
Ah,
years ago.
that's funny.
Francois Sicard started Tocqueville with Robert Kleinschmidt, and I became one of the 12 partners when they bought my firm. Way,
Wow.
way.
Yeah.
But the point is that you're right. There is a theme to success for a client. And remember, we all work for the client. Doesn't
Yep.
matter if you're the CPA partner or the advisor partner, we all work for the client. Um, and I do want to mention over the years, one of the things, because you spoke of those advisors just starting out. Obviously, I started out when there were very few of us, but now they're everywhere,
Yeah.
and it does make it a little harder to be successful. I mean, the broader the audience, the more difficult it is to rise to the top. But the theme that we created, one of the things we created over the years, is a social science we call demogonomics.
Yep.
which is a blend of demography and economics. And what when people say to me, "Well, Mike, why are you not nervous about what's going on?" And I tell them, I say, "Well, because we know what's coming." Um, you too would be excited if you knew what was coming.
Yep.
And what's coming is probably the best 25 to 30 years of demand this country has ever witnessed. We are about to see records set. And by the way, the pandemic didn't stop it. Interest rates going up a bunch didn't stop it. Inflation curves didn't stop it. And whatever we're going to call this tariff thing isn't going to stop it. It is a force to be reckoned with. And if you understand it, everything else that's going on makes sense.
Yep.
But you got to understand the root cause of what's driving what is effectively a massive amount of change. Our world right now is kind of like a snake shedding its skin. And you don't fight off shedding your skin. You get ready for what's coming out on the other side.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's an exciting, massively beneficial set of opportunities. I tell this to everyone. Everything is going to change. And in that is more opportunity than you've ever imagined.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. And that's good to hear it because there's so much negativity in the
Yeah.
news, mainstream media, et cetera, these days. So, um, yeah, that's definitely something I think that's needed. Those morning notes to keep people on their path.
Got
Um,
to have a bright spot.
well, again, Mike, we're gonna have the links to your videos in the link here for the podcast, but I really wanted to just thank you and you know, I think we're going to be doing quite a few more of these podcasts, and we'll get into the nitty gritty a little bit more. There's just so much to talk about, but I just wanted this to be our initial conversation, make it short and sweet. Um, I guess you know anything else you'd like to leave as a note.
Yeah, I think I would just speak from 4 decades of doing this. Anyone listening, whether it's an advisor or a CPA, I would just share that what we do for our client is is an honor to be able to be in that position. And if we think from that perspective, incredible relationships can be built, incredible services can be delivered. The ability to make someone's legacy unfold for them is something that very few people get to do.
Yep.
And the fact that we're all together as a team, we have to think that way all the time. We have
Yep.
to think. Let's not think in terms of, well, that's not going to work. Let's think in terms of how do we make it work? How do we make it work for the most important person in the entire discussion? And that's your client.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
if we do that, then the success that will come to all parties is vastly more than you might imagine.
I agree, and that's a good note to leave off on. So.
Yes, sir.
Well, I again want to thank you so much for your time today. And for any of our members, Mike has a landing page in our resources tab. He's with Truvestments, and you can reach out to him directly through that. And Mike, I'm sure you're going to be on our social network fielding any questions in the education department as well as we build that out. So
Yes, sir.
um, thanks so much. And I guess we'll talk soon.
Wonderful to see you, Xander.
Have a good one. You too.